In Part 2 we take a look into Philippa's life and achievements as monarch and wife of Edward III. Her time as queen saw her see many catastrophic events, including the spread of the Black Death through England and the start of the 100 Years' War against France. During her marriage and reign as queen consort, Philippa would give birth to 13 children. 4 of these children would die in infancy. In 1340, whilst in the Belgian city of Ghent, Philippa would give birth to her 4th son, John, 1st Duke of Lancaster. John would become known as John of Gaunt, whose own son, Henry Bolingbroke, would go on to depose his own nephew, Richard II, son of his eldest brother Edward the Black Prince. These events in time would lead to the English Civil War known as the War of the Roses. 9 years after the 100 Years' War started in 1337, Philippa was appointed as regent in the Edward III's absence in France, when he led the English army to victories including the Battle of Crécy in August 1346. Philippa played an important role during the 100 Years' War, advising her husband how the commercial interests of the kingdom could be expanded in order to support the financial cost of the war. She would be in control of setting up textile industries using Flemish weavers in Norfolk. She would also be responsible for the expansion coal mining in Tynedale, Northumberland. 2 months later she was called upon to lead an English army against an invasion of a Scottish army led by King David II. She would be present at the battlefield although not involved in the fighting. This would lift the spirits of the English army to victory and capture the Scottish king, who would go on to be held prisoner for nearly 11 years. Philippa would join up with her husband in France in the following year. She would be present during the English army's siege of Calais, which ended in August 1347. Her gentle nature and compassion would become renowned throughout Europe, especially when she persuaded her husband against executing the brewers of Calais following the siege of the port town. Burghers were privileged citizens of towns within Europe. In 1348, tragedy would befall Philippa and Edward. 3 of their children would die from the Black Death. 2 of these children, Thomas and William of Windsor, would die in their infancy. Their second daughter, Joan, would die just before she could marry King Pedro of Castile in July 1348. King Pedro's daughters, Constance and Isabella, would eventually go on to marry Philippa's sons, John of Gaunt, 1st Duke of Lancaster, and Edmund of Langley, 1st Duke of York respectively. Before her death, Edward III would campaign for the return of Hainault to Philippa's name, but due to inheritance laws at this point in history favouring male heirs, he would be unsuccessful. Philippa would pass away through illness at Windsor Castle on the 15th of August 1369, and after 40 years of a happy marriage to her husband, Edward III. She would be laid to rest in Westminster Abbey on the 15th of August 1369 and would be joined by her husband in 1377. The legacy she would leave behind would be that her and her husband's descendants' disputes would lead the long and bloody history of England's Second Civil War known as the War of the Roses in the next century.